When we get put to work and we know we're doing good work that's helping a community or helping someone out, that's basically the favorite part of it, is knowing that you're serving a purpose and knowing that your work means something.
I really like the diversity, the fact that I get to work in a number of different refuges. I get to work with plants. I get to think about the effects on wildlife. There's a great group of people in the fire community in Alaska.
So one thing I always have liked about forestry is that as the seasons change, the work changes, so you don't get in a rut doing the same thing all the time.
I get really excited teaching about fire because it's so interesting and it's always changing and it's just such a dynamic subject.
If you like the outdoors and being in clean air, and it's a good career field.
My name is Jonathan Glover, and I work for the State of Alaska Division of Forestry. My current job is the superintendent for Pioneer Peak Hotshots. What I do at my job, I supervise 21 individuals that are on a hotshot crew, and our primary function is to suppress wildland fires. As a crew member, typically what you'll wind up doing is showing up for work, doing an hour or so of physical training with the crew, and then we'll get ready to mobilize either to an incident or we will do project work if we're not on a fire. If we're doing project work, typically what that consists of is cutting or thinning trees, maybe on a roadside or maybe in an area near the urban interface that might be around structures and homes, or putting in a fire break somewhere within the borough or the the municipality or somewhere like that to try and decrease potential for fires. If we're mobilizing to an incident, we're going to an actual wildfire. What our job will consist of then is cutting fire line and then plumbing hose lays or digging fire line in the ground to try and stop the progression of a fire. And we have a various amount of tactics that we use and employ when we're doing that. So those are kind of our two main functions. We also can respond to really any type of hazardous or disastrous situation, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, really anything possible. We're a pretty unique group of 22 highly motivated, physically fit and capable people that work well in a team environment and can really adapt to most any situations. We live in a very minimalistic environment where we're just ready to go. Food, water, supplies. We carry our own tents, sleeping bags, all that stuff, and it's typical for us to deploy for 14 to 21 days at a time. So we can go remote and we can really just be stuck out anywhere in the middle of nowhere and survive really well as long as we're supported with food and water. For an entry-level position, the state actually offers all of the training for free. If you're 18 years old, you can sign up to get your red card, and you just take a week-long class. You go through that, get your certification, pass the physical fitness test, which is 45 pounds on your back. You go 3 miles and you have to do it in under 45 minutes. And that gets you in the door as far as able to be a firefighter. To be on a hotshot crew, there's a national standard that's a fair amount higher than that. It helps to have experience, at least a couple of seasons under your belt as a, apprentice firefighter. But what we're specifically looking for is a really positive attitude, someone that far exceeds the minimums for physical fitness, someone with experience, people that like working in a team environment, people that don't mind arduous conditions and fairly miserable ones at that. Being in the middle of nowhere, not necessarily the best food all the time, being tired and dirty and blistered feet, and basically like a really hard camping trip is kind of the best way to describe it. But people that kind of strive in those kind of conditions and are willing to sacrifice and endure a little bit of pain for everybody else's good, and yeah, that's kind of the person we're looking for. We all enjoy helping other people, and that's kind of the fun part of this job, is being a civil servant and going out and being able to help out where there's a need. So when we get put to work and we know we're doing good work that's helping a community or helping someone out, That's basically the favorite part of it, is knowing that you're serving a purpose and knowing that your work means something.
My name is Lisa Saperstein, and I'm a regional fire ecologist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Alaska, which means I deal with fire ecology issues on any of our national wildlife refuges in the state. Fire ecology deals with some of the vegetation aspects before and after a fire, how things might burn, what happens after they burn severity, how severe the burn might be from an ecological, a plant, a biological perspective, as well as the effects that fire might have on fish and wildlife populations. I'll sometimes work on a computer looking at fire behavior models. So we look at things like how far the fire might spread in a given amount of time, and what different values might be threatened by the fire, say in a week or 2 weeks. And then we provide that information to the people actually fighting the fire so they can plan accordingly. So there's a lot of variety involved, ranging from field work to the modeling aspect of it, and then the desk work. I was a wildlife biologist for Fish and Wildlife Service, and I worked on various national wildlife refuges in Alaska. So I didn't come up through the ranks on the fire line. I really like the diversity, the fact that I get to work in a number of different refuges. I get to work with plants. I get to think about the effects on wildlife. There's a great group of people in the fire community in Alaska. Each of the Department of Interior agencies, so BLM, Park Service, and Fish and Wildlife Service has a fire ecology, and we work together on a lot of different projects. I actually have 3 degrees, a bachelor's degree in botany, a second bachelor's in wildlife biology, and then I went on to get a master's degree at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks in wildlife biology. But that was focused on fire and more from the vegetation aspect. I started working outside when I was 15 with the Youth Conservation Corps, and I've been working pretty much summertime jobs in the field ever since then. So seasonal technician jobs, naturalist jobs, working in small parks, trail crew type things. I guess the best advice I can give that I've received in various forms is getting a diversity of experience. That's what people have told me to pursue throughout my career, and that's been what's really helped me stay employed. The education aspect of it is really important. It's competitive. There's a lot of people who are looking for those types of positions. So the education is important, if you're going into the biological aspect of things. One thing I like about this job is I don't think there is a typical day. It really varies with the season and just week to week. And one of the nice things I like about it is in the summer I do get quite a bit of field work still. So some of the things I do are I'll go in after a fire and look at, say, the burn severity. I go out and collect data on the vegetation after the fire. I work on fire modeling, fire behavior modeling. So when there's an actual fire going on, I'm behind the computer and trying to figure out where that fire might go in a day's time or a week's time or 2 weeks' time, looking at the weather, the climatology, and making maps of what that fire spread might look like. And that information we provide to the people who are working on the fire in the field, if they're doing suppression, looking at that. And that helps them basically plan their course of action for the fire. One of the reasons I really like my current position is it's taken all the things I've worked on regarding habitat, wildlife, plants, and it really puts it to practical use. I really enjoy the fact that it's kind of a synergistic way of looking at what's going on in our environment and how that's changing. And I think that my expertise, my experience, and my background working on a variety of different refuges in the state, everywhere from the tundra to the boreal forest, working on wildlife projects and working a lot with the habitat, all comes together and enables me to better inform our managers of how they can treat fire on the environment.
My name's Nathan Lojeski. I work for Chugachmute. Chugachmute's a nonprofit native corporation, and my job title here is the forestry manager. I'm more of a generalist position. I didn't specialize in anything in particular, and I get to do a little bit of everything. But a lot of what I end up doing, I'm a one-man shop. I run the entire forestry program, and I don't have other foresters here. Yeah, so I got interested in this career when I was a kid from camping and doing stuff outside with my family. I knew I wanted to be able to work outside, not be stuck inside all day. And so I knew you needed to get a 4-year degree from college to become a forester. And I don't know, I guess I was lucky. When I graduated high school, I went to Northern Arizona University, and I declared a forestry major when I started as a freshman, and I never switched. So I knew right away that was what I wanted to do. And a 4-year degree is enough to get a lot of forestry positions, but I ended up sticking around. I did two additional years and got a master's degree. I guess once you get a forestry degree, there's a lot of different career paths you could take with it. I mean, you could specialize in like GIS, and you could just work on a computer and do mapping and modeling work. I mean, there's positions for that. There's folks who have PhDs in that, and that's all they do. So they do remote sensing, where they're using satellites and computers and all kinds of technology and doing modeling stuff. You can get a 2-year technician's degree in forestry, and you're the guy who's out in the woods all the time. You're doing timber cruises. A lot of foresters are firefighters and get into fire management, which is a whole beast in itself. There's certain folks who've got forest engineering degrees, and they build forest roads and they lay out timber sales. If you've ever seen some of those logging reality shows, they've got the guys running the big cable skyline systems and all that heavy equipment. They usually have a forest engineer who kind of determines what type of equipment or what kind of ground and how to lay out that sail so that the equipment will function properly. One thing I always have liked about forestry is that as the seasons change, the work changes, so you don't get in a rut doing the same thing all the time. Because in the spring it might be tree planting season, so you're planting trees, and in the summer maybe it's real good operability, so you're out doing field work because you can get places or folks can get in and log. And in the winter everything's frozen up, and actually in Alaska we do a lot of logging in the winter because everything's frozen and you can drive bulldozers and heavy equipment across swamps and build ice roads. But the seasonality of the work changes, so you don't ever get stuck in a rut doing the same thing year round. I can tell you in the forestry field there's a whole bunch of baby boomers who are in their like 50s and 60s who are retiring, and there's a whole bunch of people coming out of college, and there's not a lot of people in between. So all these folks in between are having to jump to these more upper level forestry jobs, and there's just like this vacuum in the field of forestry, and we're having problems recruiting new people to come in. So there's lots of job opportunities in forestry, or even it could be natural resources management. There's degrees in natural resource management which aren't forestry per se, but they're really closely related. They cover the biology, the recreation, the forest ecology, and that sort of stuff. I think a lot of the experience you get in forestry is from on the ground work. I worked in the Peace Corps for a little while doing forestry in West Africa, and that was pretty cool. It was, learn a different language, see a different culture, and get to do some forestry work in a totally different environment. This was real neat. Some of the stuff you do, you have to wait a long time to see results. You plant trees now, and maybe 50 years or 100 years later, they're grown. Other things are instant. So, for example, I designed with some colleagues a fuel break for the city of Sterling. And it's a fire barrier that's supposed to help firefighters keep a fire out of the city if one starts outside. And now we're constructing this fuel break around Sterling, and so I can go out there and I can see. A month ago, it was just a thick forest, and today parts of it have been thinned out and are, an area that's defensible from a wildfire. A good piece of advice is just to work hard, and a lot of what you can get in life isn't necessarily based on how smart you are, but are you willing to learn something and put the time in and do some work? And having a good attitude and being willing to work hard towards your goals can get you places.
My name is Lily Goodman Allwright. I'm a contractor with the Alaska Division of Forestry. I've been in environmental and outdoor education for probably about 25 years. And then I got more into environmental education. I first started doing that in 1990 as an intern, which is a great way to start a career. It's amazing how influential that year, as me being an intern, has affected me 20 years later. I think it's been more than 20. And another thing that's really influential in what I do, it sounds crazy, but I used to be really into theater. And so I'm used to performing in front of people and acting weird and being creative with characters, and that has really helped me be a good teacher. My advisor in graduate school told me when I was actually teaching a bunch of freshman biology students, and they had to write papers, and the papers needed a lot of work, and I was giving them a lot of comments, and my advisor said, you know, the students can really only handle 3 comments. And then I realized, yeah, you can't give people too much at once. You have to really choose very carefully what you're going to say and how to package it and make it very simple. I do teacher trainings about fire, and these are typically 15-hour workshops taught over a 2-day period. So basically, I take what other people do. So there's scientists, there's firefighters, there's the managers, people making decisions. I take all their information and I present it to people. So I do a lot of research, constantly learning, and then I put the courses together, put all the materials for the teachers, and these workshops are very interactive. We burn things, we light things on fire, and watch how they burn so we can look at fire behavior. They're not sitting in a boring course getting bored, you know, they're constantly doing, and fire is really I get really excited teaching about fire because it's so interesting and it's always changing, and it's just such a dynamic subject. I love seeing the light go on. I love inspiring teachers to then go and inspire their students and be able to engage them. I love learning about fire and what's happening every year and transferring that knowledge. And I also did a lot of research, and I'm published in fire ecology. So that really was helpful. And then all the education that I've been doing, my work teaching, and not only inside but outside, has really helped me to understand how to engage students. It's a very exciting thing to be not only a teacher, but somebody who's involved in doing research and learning about the latest technology and the latest innovations. So get involved doing a lot of different things and do an internship. I think that's a really great place to start, that helps you hone in your interest. And you could do more than one internship. That one was boring, maybe I'll try a different one. And it really gets you set up with contacts too, of people that can help you where you want to go.
Hi, my name is John C. I work for Anchorage Fire Department. I'm the Public Information Officer, Forester, and Wildfire Program Coordinator. A typical day for me is arriving to the office, and I get a list of homeowners who I'm going to go meet with and do a FireWise home inspection. I meet the homeowners and we do a walk around the property, and I point out fire hazards to the homeowners. Things like wood piles next to the home or under a deck, things like snow machines and gas cans up close to a structure, and other things that are less obvious like leaves and maybe tall grass behind a home that need to be removed. The way I got into this career was my interest and love of the outdoors, and I think that I just naturally, it kind of pulled me towards doing forestry. A professional forester goes to a 4-year or 5-year, it's an accredited program, and there are a number of states that offer a program in forestry. I worked for the U.S. Forest Service as a student, and I was also a member of a student firefighting crew. As an upperclassman, I was able to get a summer job with the U.S. Forest Service. My job focus was more on firefighting in those days. When we weren't fighting fires, we cut down hazard trees that were around the campgrounds. And I think some of the best advice that I have gotten is that this career requires people who like working with other people, and a lot of the folks that go into forestry or natural resource management are folks that just love the outdoors. I think it's a career field where there's a lot of opportunity today. There are less young people interested in careers out of doors. I think that the downside is we work in all kinds of weather, all 4 seasons. You have to be prepared to go out of doors even when the weather maybe isn't great. But the flip side of that is it's really enjoyable, I think, being out of doors. And I don't spend the entire day outside, but I spend a lot more time than people in other professions like insurance sales, business, other careers. So if you like the outdoors and being in clean air, and it's a good career field. The favorite part of my job is dealing with the public and meeting a homeowner and showing them how little changes they can make around their home can make them a lot more fire safe. I do lots of presentations with groups, and so spreading the word, explaining how to be fire safe, that's the most rewarding part of my career, I'd say. My career has taken me all over the country. I've gotten to go to Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Ivan, the Yellowstone fires, and many other dozens of major wildfires. And it's been a very exciting, challenging career from that standpoint. And I think I've been able to really make a difference in people's lives